So the Reds just finished up day two of the draft, which was rounds 3 through 7, or 3 through 7, 3 through 10. They started off well. They took high school right-handed pitcher Nick Hansen, uh, Minnesota kid, so cold weather state high school guy. Probably means he's pretty raw. Just not enough innings to really put him on the same path as kids did or from warmer states. I don't think Minnesota usually starts their high school baseball season until April, whereas most other states start in March. Some of them start late February, depending on where you're at. Um, After that, they took a left-handed pitcher, Scott Moss, out of Florida. He uh, he had Tommy John surgery while he was in college. Didn't really pitch too much. Um, Despite the fact that he's draft eligible, he's only pitched in one season at Florida. That was this year. He threw 22 and two-thirds innings, dominated, 1.59 ERA, 31 strikeouts. So fresh, but previously injured arm. But I like that pick. There's some risk there, but left-hander who's been up to 95. It's an interesting arm to follow. Um, Round five, they went with right-hander Ryan Hendricks out of Texas A&M. Um, Big-time arm strength guy. He apparently topped out at 101 miles an hour this season, but his velocity was inconsistent. At times he was 92, 94. Other days he was mid to upper 90s, 95 to 99. Um, Control was a problem this year. He walked 20 batters in 24.1 innings. Um, Posted an ERA over 6. So with him, you're taking a risk, but there's a lot to dream on. He's got a potentially plus curveball, and he's been able to throw over 100 miles an hour. Um, so if you feel that you can work with that and get some better control, there's a lot to like there. But again, there's really big control issues that you have to worry about as well. Round six, they went to New Jersey High School and took right-hander Tyler Mondile. Um, Generally sits in the low 90s. He's been up to 96. Um, Solid changeup, okay curveball. Both pitchers are going to have to improve as a professional, particularly as he climbs up the ladder. But um, there's not a huge upside there with him, but he seems like a solid pitcher right now. Who he's got enough stuff that if he can improve on the secondary stuff, you're going to get a decent back end of the rotation kind of guy in the future. Now, round 7, 8, 9, and 10 is where things got interesting. The Reds took 4 straight college seniors, which at this point in the draft is something that you tend to do more based on how much money you can save to sign these guys rather than their pure talents. And that's not to say that these guys don't have some talent, um, but it was more likely that they drafted these guys here because they're going to sign for $5,000 or $10,000 each, which if they let's say they all sign for $10,000, that's or $10,000 each. That's going to make that'll save the Reds $700,000 that they can spend somewhere else in the draft. And I think that was probably their plan here with these guys. It's interesting because the Reds have the largest pool money to work with this year, um, pretty much due to having the second pick in every round, and they also had the supplemental first round pick. That was, I think, the bonus for that was 1.8. Let's see, yeah, just a little over $1.8 million. So they have the most money to work with. Um, I think that at this point maybe they're trying to save money here so they can buy out, you know, maybe one or two high school players that have dropped down in the draft a little bit, buy them out from college, get them in. After the 10th round, anything you spend over $100,000 on a player counts towards your bonus pool. So the Reds could theoretically spend $800,000 on one guy with the money that they saved in rounds 7 through 10, and not have to worry about any penalties or anything like that. I think that that's probably going to be something that we're going to see tomorrow, probably early on in the draft, maybe in rounds 11 and 12. We'll see how that works out. Um, depending on how much money they've got stowed away from, whatever they're going to sign first rounder Nick Senzel for. I don't think he's going to sign for slot money. He'll take an under slot deal. It's just a matter of how much money. Um, they might have to spend a little bit of that money that they saved there on Taylor Trammell, who was their supplemental first rounder. I think he's probably going to get a little bit more than slot money. Um, so we'll see how that plays out. I also asked for a few questions on Twitter, and they're right over that way. Everything's mirrored, so that was the wrong head tilt, but that's all right. Yeah. Cam wants to know, do I have a couple of names of guys that we could possibly take a run at with the cash they saved in round 7? I really don't. I'd assume it's probably not going to be anybody that's looking for, $1 million plus. I'm not sure that the money's there. I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed if that were to happen. Obviously, those kind of guys are going to have more talent, in theory at least. Um, but I think it's probably guys who are going to rank somewhere in, the we'll use Baseball America for an example, somewhere in their 100 to 200 range. Maybe guys that were third, fourth, fifth round talents that maybe were floating out. They wanted $750,000 to sign, and teams weren't quite ready to pay that. Those are the kind of guys I would expect more so than somebody who's looking for seven figures to sign. Um, Nick Coates is wondering about uh, second baseman John Sansone, who was the eighth round pick out of Florida State. Um, you know, as I wrote up on the site, he really struggled his first 3 years at Florida State. He never hit over 245, didn't really hit for much power. He got on base, but he had a fairly high strikeout rate. And then he came out in 2016 and hit 374. Um, he showed more power. He showed, pretty much a similar walk rate that he had shown the entire uh, career at Florida State, but he cut his strikeout rate in half. Um, you know, he's a stocky guy. Given his power output for the first 3 years, you wouldn't really think he had too much size to him. But he's listed at 5'11", 195. So, unless he's built like a pear, which I doubt it because you can't play middle infield if you're built like that. Um, he's probably got a little bit of strength to him. It doesn't. I don't think he's going to hit for too much power, but I don't think that he's exactly a slap hitter either. Which, if you look at the first 3 years at Florida State, maybe that's kind of the idea you would get with him. But I don't know. I don't think he's a big prospect of any kind, really. But I do admit that I'm a little intrigued by the improvements that he made as a senior. I mean, he pretty much turned around his entire game. Usually, if you see a guy cut his strikeout rate like that, he's going to do so by sacrificing power. But uh, he pretty much cut his strikeout rate in half and then hit for way more power than he's ever shown to. So I'm intrigued, but I'd be surprised if he turned out to be more than a solid minor league player. Um, which guy is most likely to make an impact in the majors soonest? Um, and what do they do with the extra money? I'm not too sure about the extra money. We kind of talked about that a little bit already. Um, guy that could impact the soonest. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be one of the high school guys. Um, I don't know, Scott Moss as a left-handed reliever could move quickly. Um, left-handed relievers, if if the team wants to, they can generally push them up the ladder pretty fast. He's got good enough stuff. Um, it's just a matter of how they want to handle that. But as a reliever, he can move fast, and particularly as a lefty reliever, if he can throw strikes, he's definitely got enough stuff that he can move up the chain pretty quickly. Um, so I think he'd probably be the guy that would move the fastest among this entire group. But at the same time, if they can figure out how to get Ryan Hendricks to throw more strikes, um, he could rocket through the system because he's got 2+ pitches that he can work with. So if they can work with him and get the mechanics straightened out, um, he could really move quickly. Okay, and then Nick's got a second question. I think that Moss makes any starts in Billings this year. I really don't think so. Um, the Reds have been the team in the past that's drafted guys that spent time as a reliever in college and moved into the starting rotation, um, particularly guys that didn't have too much mileage on their arm. But well, Moss doesn't have much mileage on his arm because he missed 2 seasons after having Tommy John surgery. Um, I just think that he profiles better as a reliever, and that's probably going to be the role they stick with. And Trevor wants to know, do you think that the Reds drafting players who throw 100 plus is risky, even though they have upside, which is what the point is? Well, I mean, drafting a guy that throws 100 isn't risky in the sense that they throw 100. I'm not sure if you're asking because guys that throw so hard get injured more often. But I mean, pitchers, they get hurt. Everybody gets hurt if you pitch long enough. The arm just isn't made to handle throwing even 93 for 15, 20 years. Um, I mean, Bronson Arroyo eventually got hurt, and he had pretty much no velocity for the most part of his career, and clean mechanics from what everybody can tell. So um, I think that the biggest risk with him is just that he struggles to throw strikes. Um, Now, you don't really find guys that throw 100 plus. So when you do find them, even when they have the question marks like the control issues, I don't really think that it's too risky. I mean, I wouldn't spend a first, second, or third round pick on a guy who walks a lot of batters, no matter how good their stuff is. Um, but once you get past the third round, the Major League Baseball draft is such a crapshoot that the odds of finding even a utility player or middle reliever aren't very good. Um, we like to fantasize and romanticize this idea that you can find these guys in fourth, fifth, sixth round that turn into all-star players, and it does happen every few years. There'll be one guy out of the 150 players selected in whatever given round that turns into something. But by and large, you're not getting too many major league players in those kind of rounds. So I definitely understand taking a guy that's got a huge upside there and hoping that you can figure something out between the year that you draft him and 5 years later to make it work and turn this guy into something that can be useful at the major league level. Um, Andy just checked in. To be fair, we have a middle of the pack farm system. Their poor return on Chapman and Frazier set the rebuild back. I disagree with you completely, Andy, or Adam. Sorry about the name issue there. I think that the Reds have a strong farm system. I do think it's heavily weighed towards pitching, where they have a lot more prospects, particularly at the upper levels, than they do hitting guys. Um, I think that the return for Todd Frazier was fine. Um, with that said, I probably am a little bit higher on Jose Peraza than other people are. He's not a huge bat, and I understand that. And I think that that's kind of one of the issues that comes into play with that whole thing. And I put a lot of value on somebody who can play shortstop, and I think Major League Baseball teams do as well. I don't really want to get into this too much because it's not really draft related, but um, it we'll compare it to the draft a little bit right now. Guys that can play catcher and shortstop, legitimately play catcher and shortstop at the big league level, even if they can't hit too much, you'll see those guys drafted in the second round because those guys are rare. Guys that can legitimately play defense at those positions and do even a little bit with the bat. Um, there's not too many of them that stick around. So when you do find those guys, they do have value, even though they may not seem so at the surface to a lot of people, just because they don't hit as well as some players at other positions do. Um, Colby wants to know if I think the Reds will be able to sign all of their current draft picks. Yeah, I'd be surprised if the Reds didn't sign all of the guys in the first 10 rounds. Once you get past the 10th round, that's when things start getting a little bit more iffy. The teams generally know what the guys are asking for in the first 10 rounds. With the slot system now, they talk to all of these guys and have a general idea of what it's going to take to sign the players. And that's why you saw the Reds today take so many seniors later on. They knew how much money they had to work with, and so they took some seniors to kind of play around with the numbers a little bit so they can sign the players that they want to. Um, if you don't sign somebody, you lose that money in the pool. So teams pretty much make sure that they can get all of these guys signed. Adam is back with another one. He thinks that college closers and middle infielders are a waste. Somebody's got to play middle infield. When you see a team that runs out, no one at shortstop or second base, let me know. But in my 32 years, I've never seen it. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. College closers, you know, I wouldn't draft any person who's projected to be a reliever in the long run in the first couple of rounds. But college closer, not a college closer, doesn't matter. Somebody eventually has to be pitching out of the bullpen. Now, whether you buy into the idea that you can move failed starters into the bullpen or not, I think that that's always an option. But ignoring talent just because a guy happened to be a closer in college it's a bad idea. But okay, well that's it for today. As far as the questions go, Adam just came up with another one, but I'm just gonna give my quick take on day two of the draft. I liked what they did early on. They took some guys with upside. They took a few more safer guys. Um, we'll see how things play out with the money situation, both tomorrow and then over the next few weeks as they start signing players, and we'll kind of see where that money goes to. Um, that'll really kind of determine exactly what kind of grade someone will end up giving this portion of the draft in the future is what they're able to do with that money. But I like what they did. Um, and again, maybe they'll be able to use the money that they saved today to pick somebody that fell down the draft for monetary reasons. Somebody who wants more money to sign. So, all right, well, I guess check back in tomorrow. Draft starts at I think it starts at noon, and we get 30 rounds basically in 7 hours or so. Um, so that'll be fun for me. But yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for stopping by.